All right. So I'm back with another video.
I've been scared of lane switching. Walk into the function, I can.
Today is the 29th of November. And I leave for short course Europeans tomorrow, but I did want to try and push out a little video before I left. I do have a vlog planned for, or not a vlog, just like a video for Europeans where I kind of record what's going on and stuff, and my live reactions. So hopefully that'll happen. But today I wanted to kind of talk about the differences and particularities of US and UK universities, and also just like general international programs, because I had a couple people, I posted a thing on my story, a poll kind of on videos, ideas on what people wanted to see and what what type of content they wanted me to produce, and you guys left some really good ideas. I want to thank you guys for that. If you do have more ideas, put it in the comments and I'll respond to it and hopefully make a video about it one day. But today I'm going to be focusing on kind of the difference between US universities and UK universities, in case there's any kind of younger swimmers watching or even older swimmers watching that want to know, and also hopefully make that decision for them a little bit easier. I do want to give a disclaimer before I start off with this video. I'm going to be speaking about my own experience completely. So this isn't something I want you guys to base your opinion off completely. But it is something that could help you kind of understand on how both programs work, and give you a better insight from somebody who has seen both sides of the story, and is now in a spot where I'm comfortable about talking about this. And yeah, I mean, I'm just looking to help anybody who I can out, make the right decision, and kind of what to look out for when it comes to choosing your college for the next couple years, but also give you guys a little bit of history on how I got to where I am today, and what that entire process looked like. So let's dive into it. Let's go. So as backstory, I've wanted to go swim at a collegiate level as long as I can remember. My mom used to be a swimmer back in the day, and she raised me and my brother in the water. She actually swam at the University of Miami when she was still a swimmer, and ever since I was like 5 or 6 years old, she took us on a visit there, and I saw the campus and I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. So that's kind of where it all started out for me. And I started swimming, I don't know, like even when I was like 2 years old. So I've really been doing it for a very long time, and I have a lot of love for this sport. I was raised in the water. And my brother swam as well. He ended up moving to the US for high school at some point, and it didn't end up working out for him. So he just chose kind of a different career path. I ended up moving to the US for my senior year in high school, so my last year in high school. And I moved to Sarasota, where I trained with the Sarasota Sharks for about a year and a half. I think that was when I was 18. I just turned like recently 18. Swam with a great program there, amazing people, and they really kind of taught me what tough training and tough swimming was, which I hadn't really experienced before, and I'd never really been placed into like a kind of team environment, because I'd always been swimming with, you know, the Luxembourg national team, which is very small, and you're kind of you're kind of on your own. You have to choose your own path, because not a lot of people are swimming the same events as you, and so you have to make hard decisions by yourself, right? And when I got to Sarasota, I had a huge group of people around me, which was kind of the first time that I experienced that. And world-class swimmers, I trained with people who pushed me every day and brought me to great things and fun moments. So I'm forever grateful for that. Moving to Sarasota also got me a lot of exposure to US colleges, which I didn't get before. As a European swimmer, because it's hard. There's no short course yards, and you're swimming long course meters or short course meters, which isn't getting collegiate attention as much as short course yards were to be, because they do swim short course yards in the NCAA. So that was a big adjustment for me. But yeah, I mean, around the time that I finished futures that summer, I started getting my first couple big schools emailing me. I had Texas email me, ASU email me, Tennessee. So these are all like top, 10 schools in the U.S. that wanted to kind of get to know me and see if I could fit into their program. Um, and I ended up landing on ASU when Bob Bowman gave me a text and told me he wanted to get into contact with me. And this was around January. That time I just come off of an amazing meet where I swam a 2:02 in the 2 IM for the first time and dropped like 2 seconds. And I was really confident. And I believe that ASU and Bob's training would have been a great fit for me. So I immediately gave them my verbal commitment when Bob called, and I was very excited to go. If you guys see me looking down, I have like a couple notes on my phone that I'm just reading off of, but this is mostly coming from the heart. So yeah, I mean, I continued to believe in that choice, and around, I think it was April 1st, actually, exactly, because everybody thought it was an April Fool's joke when this was happening. The news came out that Bob was transferring to Texas, and I was having a lot of problems with admissions at this point, because from me switching schools so many times in Luxembourg and then coming to the US and switching school again, they were kind of confused on why I was having so many different transcripts, right? And they were like, yeah, we need to figure that out and see if you can even get admitted to ASU. So I stuck with that plan, and I was like, I'm gonna stay with ASU. I trust Herbie and I trust Salo, who was selected as the new assistant head coach at ASU, and who led up to be my coach that year. And I stayed with the choice, which honestly, I gotta say, I would never regret. I still have a lot of love for my friends and my coaches at ASU. Um, and yeah, I started off strong at ASU. I had a pretty good like start of the season, but bad news hit when in November I ended up breaking my elbow, and I got injured. I was out for like 3 to 4 weeks out of the water, doing rehab, doing all sorts of stuff, and people at ASU were helping me a lot, trying to get back into the water, which ultimately led me to have one last meet of the season, which was our meet against U of A. In, I think this was like late February. It was right before Big 12s, pretty much. And I swam pretty good. Swam a PB like by 2 seconds after only being back in the water for maybe like 2 or 3 weeks. And then, yeah, I mean, sad news hit. I wasn't fast enough. I couldn't make the Big 12 or the conference team or the NCAA team. And due to the roster caps obviously going on everywhere in the NCAA right now in swimming, that led to me getting cut and having to train myself from pretty much March until like end of May when I left the US and came back to Luxembourg to train with my national coach. So that's kind of a rundown of what happened. I wasn't the only person to get cut. I think we had to cut around like 10 or 12 guys on the team, excluding the girls. So it was a rough hit in my career, and it's probably the biggest stepping stone I've had to get over in my life so far. But I know that things like that come from you, and the choices you make after that is what defines you. And I have to say, I think I bounced back pretty successfully from that, and I've changed a lot as a person. I've changed a lot as a swimmer since then, and all I really had to do is kind of get myself back on the right path, and you can't give up. You can't give up. That's not an option. So I continue to push through that and try and get myself back into the place where I wanted to be. And so yeah, that's kind of a little bit of my backstory. I will make a video about more in depth about how that entire thing happened, but that's not what this video focuses on today. Today I'm going to be talking about what the pros and cons of US and UK universities are. So let's dive into that next. All right, so let's start off with the pros of US universities. Now, when I was a kid, I would not shut up about wanting to go D1 in swimming, which is the case for a lot of swimmers internationally and in the US. Everybody wants to go D1. Everybody wants to be part of a top 10 D1 university. They want to go to Texas. They want to go to ASU. They want to go to Florida, Virginia, whatever it may be. I hear it over and over again, and I have kids DMing me, asking me what schools they should contact, how they should contact them, asking me for different coaches' emails or phone numbers, all this stuff. And I get it. They have world-class swimmers. They have coaching names that you've heard over and over again on SwimSwam and all these news articles and stuff. They have scholarship opportunities for swimmers, like that. Even sometimes you get a full ride. You don't have to pay anything for your school, right? And they get this huge supply of swimmers that, tens of thousands of swimmers emailing these US schools wanting to come to the US, study there, get their degree, and then maybe either continue to train there or go back to where they originally were training and kind of get back to that basic groundwork, right? I will touch on the supply of swimmers after as well, but I do want to focus on kind of the US pros first because there are a few. I have to say the US universities, a lot of them give out great degrees, renowned degrees that if you go home with a degree in Harvard or Penn State or whatever it is, there's amazing degrees you can get at those schools and get very good job opportunities. The coaches know what they're doing. They've been doing it for years, and they know what the system is. They know how the system works in the US, and they know how to fit you into it. Another thing is the alumni network. A lot of swim teams in the US will have alumni that used to swim at the university and that want to support those swimmers because they know that there's hard workers on the team, and they want to get them into jobs. They want to get them into a place where they can continue to work the same way they did in the pool, except in a job place, in a workspace, right? And that's a very coveted thing for some people in offices because as swimmers, we all are hard workers. As much credit as we don't get sometimes for slacking off at practice or whatever it may be, there's not a lot of people that are getting up at 5 a.m. to go jump in a cold pool. That takes dedication and it takes motivation to do that, right? And that's what people want in a job place. Obviously, it's a highly competitive network due to the supply of swimmers. I wanted to touch on this again. If you have that many swimmers that want to come to the US and swim for your program, they're going to select the top, 10, 15. Each school is going to select their specific top 10 to 15 and bring them. The rest, they need to figure out what they're going to do. If that means going to a lower level kind of Division I school, going D2, D3, NAIA, it doesn't matter. There's always an option for you to go swim, right? You just need to find the level that's going to work for you and that the coaches want you at, right? So let's say for a school like a top 10 school, for example, if you're fast enough to make it and they want you there, they will let you know. They will tell you, hey, this is how much scholarship we want to give you. And if it's a full ride, you know that they're going to want you to come. If that's a walk-on spot, you know that they're kind of skeptical about things, but they want to see how you develop. They want to see what kind of path you choose once you come to college. And they'll make judgments based off of that throughout the year. So you kind of have to see and figure out how much the coaches want you and how bad you want to be there, right? Because the demand or the supply of swimmers is so high going to the US that if they don't think that you're going to fit into the team, they can replace you. And if they want to, they will replace you. Now let me touch on some of the pros from UK universities before I get to any of the cons. In the UK, it's much different. I have to say, I've only been here for a little bit now, but I am starting to pick apart a couple of like key differences, and that's why I wanted to make this video after about 2 or 3 months of being here now, just to touch on it and kind of talk about what being at university here is like, because I feel like it doesn't get talked about as much as US universities do. And here it's different. Due to the supply being lower, it's kind of like once you have your spot here, you're in. And the coaches will do what it takes to keep you here because they believe in your individual process and they're willing to work it out with you, right? I gotta say, we have, as somebody who's seen facilities all over the US, I've been to Fort Lauderdale, I've been to the Tennessee pool, LSU, like, I've been to the Sarasota pool, the UF pool, ASU's pool, Sacramento. Like, I've seen it all in the US pretty much. And I have to say, the facilities here in the UK match that. We have huge weight rooms. We have 50-meter pools with bulkheads that you can turn into 25s, Omega blocks. I mean, they have everything you need here. Underwater cameras. They use heart rate monitors. We do lactate testing. You have gym awares in the gyms that measure your velocity that you're doing in weightlifting. It's calculated down to it. Performance is calculated down to a T, and they can clearly measure your progression and see what you're lacking and what you need, which is the same pretty much to the US. They have the same equipment, they have the same facilities, and they have the same intent that US universities have, which is to see what you're lacking and make you progress by making your weaknesses stronger and making your strengths, right? There's world-class staff. These coaches have gone to the Olympics multiple times, and they've produced Olympic swimmers, Olympic medalists, Olympic champions. Like the depth that I'm gonna just use Loughborough as an example now because that's what I can speak for. The depth that Loughborough has in Olympic swimmers is ridiculous. I mean, we have boards on the side of our pool that spans 50 meters long with names of Olympic swimmers and Olympic champions, right? And I have to touch on it again. The supply for swimmers in the UK is much lower than it is for the US because way less swimmers' dream is to go to a UK university than it is to go D1. So the way it's set up around here is much more individualized, and they will take your needs into account way more, in my experience, than a US university will. Because it's not as easy to replace one of your key elements at a university in the UK than it is in the US due to the supply of swimmers, once again. I also have to say for international swimmers like me, for example, it's much closer to my hometown. I'm like a 3-4 hour flight away from Luxembourg instead of almost an entire day of traveling when I would fly from Arizona or Florida, for example, which honestly means a lot to me. I've been closer to my family recently, and I know if I ever needed anything, they would be here in a heartbeat to help me out, you know. And we also have the same thing as the US. We have coveted degrees. There's many options in different subjects, whatever you're kind of interested in doing. There's sports degrees, there's math degrees, business. There's so many of these different schools that you can go and study at and do the research before you come here to see what you're interested in and see exactly what you would want to study when you're here, right? Another thing that I also wanted to touch on is, as an international swimmer, I have the opportunity to compete for Luxembourg in many international races, like Europeans that I'm doing tomorrow. And I have to say, being closer to Europe is much easier to adjust those races and get that experience in racing than it would be having to fly from the US every time and getting that, 6 hour, 7 hour time change, whatever it is. Let alone the time zones makes everything much easier. Another last thing that I kind of wanted to touch on is the food. I know you guys probably see it on TikTok all the time and stuff. The US food is really good. Like, the fast food is good, and if you cook yourself, you can probably figure it out pretty well. But I have to say, the food in the US tends to taste like fake food sometimes. And especially if you're at a college campus in your first year, you're probably going to go to the dining hall a lot. And depending on how good your dining hall is, it's not going to be very healthy food. The experience that I had at ASU was good overall, and you can manage, but the freshman 15 is real. And if you don't want to gain too much weight, you really have to get in contact with a nutritionist in the US, and try and figure out ways to balance your diet, right? Whereas in the UK, there's more like communal kitchens. There's not really cafeterias like there is in the US. And you kind of have to go shop yourself and go cook your own food, which I also personally prefer. Now, let me touch on the cons of both universities, right? I'm going to start with the US. And the first con that comes to mind for me is that for international students, the fees are much higher than the out of state tuition is for some schools. My international tuition for ASU was upwards of 60 grand, and I think that was accommodation included, while the out of state tuition was around like 25, maybe 30 grand. That's US dollars. Compared to what I'm paying now as an international student here, I think I'm paying like a little more than 20,000 pounds, which is like maybe $26,000. Um, Obviously, that's different for everybody. Everybody has a different financial situation, and you need to figure out what works best for you. Once again, I'll talk about this. Roster caps in the US are very real. There is that many, like, there is a certain number of spots available on the team. And if you are not carrying your weight, like, you have to be aware that you can lose your spot. And you are going to be a number on the team, and you need to carry your weight and prove yourself that you matter on the team, which obviously everyone thinks they can do. And I thought this too. I thought that I was going to be the star of the team. I thought I was going to get there and be the next Leon Marchand, like anybody wants to believe about themselves, right? But sometimes that is not the reality of the situation. And especially if you're fighting through something like an injury, like I had to, I'm not going to use the injury as an excuse at all, because it's gotten me to where I am today, and I'm in the most grateful position I am. But the coaches will make a note of it. And once you get a certain number of strikes with the coaches, they will not hesitate to let you know that you're in a bad position with them right now. Where, another thing, these are kind of like smaller points. The sorry, no, this is a bigger point that I also wanted to talk about. The NCAA is looking at eliminating walk-on spots. And basically what a walk-on is anybody who's going to come on the team on no scholarship and work his way up. I was a walk-on at ASU, and it was a really good opportunity for me to race with these extremely high caliber level swimmers, and get out there and try to compete with them, right? Because I'd done it maybe a year and a half before that, where I trained with Summer McIntosh, who's an incredible swimmer. But that's a girl. And now I'm there swimming with guys, or men pretty much, who were twice my size, who were beating me off of every wall, and I had to figure out how I'm going to get and be at their level with them, right? And I would say that that could be a huge part of their culture, because Like all the walk-ons, we're hungry. We want to be there with the scholarship guys. We want to get our books paid for. We want to get our tuition paid for or our accommodation paid for, right? We want that just as much as they do. And fighting to get that really shows and it builds character. It's a lot of character building, and I think these past 3 years have been very good for that for me. Which kind of it drove me to a position where I'm hungry for it now, and I want to compete and I want to win, but it is very demanding and it can be very draining having to manage that with school, having to manage that with time and sleep and eating. There's a lot that comes into account with it. Another thing that I kind of wanted to talk about is public transport is not as accessible as it is in Europe. Obviously, you can have a license in the US at 16, and if you want to go and get your car and do that, that's obviously going to be better. But that's also expensive. And here in the UK, public transport is pretty cheap, and bikes are very popular. Obviously, all college campuses use a lot of bikes or skateboards or scooters or whatever you're going to use. But I did want to touch on that for a little bit. And I also wanted to say that you can almost predict how successful your college career will be on how easy your recruitment process goes, from my experience. Now, I had a very hard time with my recruitment process. First of all, because I was very late to the scene. I was kind of a late bloomer, and that didn't help at all. And then another thing was with me switching schools so many times, it made things very complicated, and a lot of coaches ended up losing interest through that. And my times were good. My times were up there with some of the best in the world. I was top 8 at Junior Worlds. Like I had good times, and coaches got interest through that. But the stuff around it was so complicated that I believe some of the coaches were like, "Oh, I don't want to deal with this, or this is too much work for me, or I don't see the return on it if I get this kid to come to my school, right?" And I think if the coaches want you at their school, they will make sure that you can get there, and they will make sure that you come to whatever school it is you want to go to, right? If that means giving you more scholarship, if that means pushing your grades with the academic advisors and being like, hey, like, even though this kid has had some tough time in school over high school, we need him here. They can have a huge impact on that. And as much as they kind of dumb it down sometimes, a coach's word can get you a long way into getting into a school. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about the cons of UK schools. Now, the first thing and the most important thing, I think, is that there's limited to almost no scholarship opportunities if you're coming in as an international student. I don't think there's people on full rides here. I don't think there's too many people getting their entire tuition paid off like there is in the US. Just because there's not as much money in British swimming as there is in the NCAA. It has to be understood that the NCAA has an incredible amount of money due to sports like due to sports like football, basketball, baseball, getting huge amounts of people watching it, and that money kind of being spread across sports, right? So they have the opportunity to give these athletes financial compensation for their work, right? Whereas here in the UK, it might not be as expensive, but you're not getting that scholarship opportunity. Another thing is that obviously with the supply of swimmers in the US being so high, some schools in the UK won't have that same level of competitiveness or even like just level of swimming that some schools in the US like Texas or UF might have, right? Just because they're getting way more swimmers who want to go over to those programs. And whether that is because they believe that the coaching style is better, or just because it's a trend, so to say, to go to the US and swim there. And that's not me trying to hate on US schools at all because of how my experience went, right? But that's just me observing it kind of from where I am now and being like, okay, well, it does kind of look like a trend though. And if everyone's going there, obviously the swimmers that they're going to produce are going to be better than the little swimmers that are going to UK and still making these Olympic finals, Olympic medals, or Olympic champions, right? I feel like if the demand were to be, or the supply of swimmers were to be even on both ends, I think the results of Olympic champions would be very similar. And I think that the talent that the coaching staff in the UK has is very close to the talent that some of the US universities have in terms of coaching. Another thing that I wanted to touch on is academic pressure. It's very different from the US. The US school system is hard, and it can be very hard to manage the time and everything. But I have to say the UK university system is also a very high level. And you will need to be able to manage your time when you come here, and you need to know how to study, most of all, when you come here, because these schools are renowned as well, and the degrees you will get in the end is tough. You will have to write dissertations in your third year, and you only have 3 years to do a degree instead of 4 years like the US, right? So that just means that the material that you're getting is going to be much more crammed in those 3 years. But you do get a degree in 3 years instead of four, which I think is also a very important point that I haven't mentioned yet. And lastly, I'm going to talk about it, the weather. Now, depending on where you go in the US, if you go to like Michigan or something, obviously the weather is going to be pretty terrible. But I did stay in Florida and Arizona for almost 3 years, which are very hot weather climates. And I come back here now, and the weather's kind of what I'm used to from Luxembourg, which isn't a bad thing for me. Honestly, I really don't care. But some people might take that as kind of like a reason why they don't want to come to the UK, because it's colder or it's raining or stuff like that. But honestly, I gotta say I'm used to it. And I lived in Luxembourg for 18 years where it rains like, I don't know, half of the time. So I really don't mind. But yeah, that's honestly all I have to say for pros and cons about both things. I will say that you're like, for either school, right? Your time management skills have to be on point, and to be able to fit, eating with swimming, with school and sleeping and seeing your friends and talking to your family, whatever your priorities are, right? You need to get it set straight as soon as you're there, and try and figure that out, right? The faster you get into your routine, the more success you're gonna have in any spot that you go to, whether that is US or UK. Time management skills are crucial in college. I think another thing that's important to talk about is you need to find the program that fits you best. And that you can only do by doing as much research as possible. Go see the schools that you want to go to. Colleges in the US are going to give you opportunities to go visit them. Go see them. Go talk to the coaches. Go look at the pool. Go talk to the nutritionist. Go talk to the physio. Go talk to the teammates. Whatever it is to get information about where you're going, the more you know, the better. And it also shows the coaches that you care. You can do the same in the UK. Come do a trial here. Come talk to our coaches. Come talk to us. We will tell you all we know about the college, right? And like, realistically, for me at least, I want to help these younger swimmers find their spot, because it's something important. And I believe like your time in college, swimming is some of the most fun time of your life. And like being at the spot that you want to be at only makes that more enjoyable. So my advice would be to get out here, go talk to anybody, literally anybody, and try to get the information, do the research. And that's definitely something that I think is the crucial part, getting informed and getting to know the spot where you want to go. So yeah, that's realistically all I have to tell you guys. If you guys do have questions or want me to talk about anything else, put it in the comments. I'll try and respond to it. And yeah, I love you guys. And I'll see you guys at Euros tomorrow.
Really wonder why this time I've been scared of lane switching. Walk into the